Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the escalating war of words between the United States government and India. It seems that there seems to be no bottom to this, and I must say that I'm genuinely surprised as to the escalation that is taking place, especially some of the people surrounding Donald Trump, some of the people in his administration who seem to be saying quite irresponsible things. For example, we are all familiar now with what Peter Navarro said first about India and how he called the war on Ukraine as Modi's war. I mean, that was so bizarre. I mean, who would believe that? What a way to call it Modi's war, as if that would stick. And I mean, all it achieved was to make Peter Navarro look foolish, but also send the signal that the administration does not really have uh, a very concrete argument against India and is therefore going to make frivolous comments to show their displeasure with India. The other comment that Peter Navarro made, which was quite surprising, was as the reference to Brahmins. I did try to give it a positive spin by trying to say maybe because he spent so many years in Boston, he kind of thought of India's elite as equal to the Boston Brahmins, which is a quite a common phrase here in the US, which means that you are both financially and academically part of the elite. So you're rich as well as you've been to some great schools. So people like, say, Elon Musk and others who have been to UPenn and Harvard and other places and then have become very rich people. But then Howard Lutnick now goes on television, and let me show you the kind of things he said. Only then will you get an idea of the amount of escalation that you see happening from the Trump administration. Clearly, they are very, very frustrated with Prime Minister Modi and his foreign policy establishment. I'm sure that they are still continuing to negotiate on the deal behind the scenes. There has been no end to the dialogue. Maybe they are not meeting face to face, but there are conversations on Zoom as well as on telephones with among the trade negotiators, especially at the bureaucratic level, if not at the ministerial level. And then maybe that India is not moving in the direction that the US is trying to push it, and as a result of that, the Trump administration is getting more and more frustrated with each day. And on top of that, India's response to the sanctions. So India's response to geo-economic provocations was geopolitical. Prime Minister Modi going to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's summit, and all those pictures that have come out from Tianjin showing Putin, Modi, and Xi Jinping in very friendly, and the bonhomie that has been projected from there it must have definitely irritated Donald Trump, who actually tweeted to that effect by saying that it looks that Russia, it is rather sad that Russia and India have basically joined hands with China, dark and deep China, and he wishes them luck. So obviously there was some irony involved in that. But take a look at this particular comments made by Howard Lutnick, and I'll tell you a little bit about Howard Lutnick, and then we will continue. I have some comments to make, some observations to make. At the end of my comments, I'll show you a couple of interesting videos. As you know, the distinguished economist from India, Dr. Amirullah Khan, was here, and he gave a lecture at the University of Delaware, a fascinating lecture on India's political economy. And then he was on my show discussing basically the first quarter results of India and the GST reforms. For those of you who have not visited it, please do. We uploaded that only yesterday. But he and I then visited the Baltimore Aquarium, and I have a couple of very interesting videos to share with you. But before that, let's listen to Mr. Howard Lutnick.
Doesn't yet want to open their market, stop buying Russian oil, right? And stop being a part of BRICS, right? They're the vowel between Russia and China. If that's who you want to be, go be it. But either support the dollar, support the United States of America, support your biggest client, who is the American consumer, or I guess you're going to pay a 50% tariff. And let's see how long this lasts.
Well, so you can see the comments that he is making are quite provocative. He actually feels that in a couple of months, India will be under so much pressure from the United States that they will recognize the error of their ways and will come and apologize to India. India will say sorry to the United States, and then all things will be back because they will then have a deal. So it seems that Donald Trump is really very keen to get a deal with India, and that deal really means that India opens up its agricultural market, its dairy products to the US farmers who are under a lot of stress. Not only that, he does want India to reduce tariffs on some of the manufacturing goods that the US currently manufactures and exports to India, which are at really very high rates. So just cars, for example, are at 50%. And there are other things which are around 60% and even 100%. So he wants those tariffs down. He wants the non-tariff barriers also down, and especially in the service industry. So Howard Lutnick also is becoming quite provocative. The other day, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was on television, and he made a very condescending comment about the Indian rupee. He basically laughed at the idea that Indian rupee could replace the dollar as a reserve currency. Well, I mean, I too have do not believe that is possible in the near future, maybe in 100 years, perhaps. But the, the the thing is, the manner in which he said it was quite undiplomatic and unbecoming of a senior government official. I mean, even if I made a comment like that on a YouTube channel, it would be considered in bad taste. But he did that on national television. But a bit more about Howard Lutnick. Howard Lutnick uh, is a billionaire in his own right, and he was a CEO of a company, and he was giving money to both the Democrats as well as the Republicans. In fact, I mean, for him, he would have been okay with either of the two sides. But he said to the Jewish Insider, a Jewish newspaper and a magazine, that he basically went with Donald Trump because he found Donald Trump most supportive of Israel. So Howard Lutnick, the pro-Israel champion leading Trump's transition team. So this was the article published by Jewish Insider, which says that Howard Lutnick is a pro-Israel champion. He's like a major supporter of Israel. And so there has been a lot of talk about India and Israeli friendship and Israeli partnership, even though Israel is a really quite a small economy compared to India. It's about $500 billion. India is 8 times bigger than Israel, but India looks up to Israel as if it is something like a mini USA, and is looking for technology from Israel, looking for investments from Israel, buying weapons from Israel, and so on. I think about $10 billion worth of weapons I think India has bought in a while from Israel. But there was also this talk that the Israeli lobby in the United States is also very pro-India, and the Indian lobby and Israeli lobbies are partnering together. But Howard Lutnick, who is the Israeli lobby in the Trump administration, is going hard at India. So it also raises the question as to how durable is the India-Israeli friendship if all the Israeli plants in the US government are not supporting India at all. And this is not the only guy. Most people in the Trump administration are from the Israeli lobby. Yeah, I mean, Trump may say till he turns blue that he is America first, but a lot of people in his government are Israel first. And most of the people who are truly America first are outside his government criticizing him, especially the MAGA people who constantly are criticizing him. Marjorie Taylor Greene became the first major, first Republican to basically accuse Israel of committing a genocide in Gaza. So she's not in the administration, she's outside. The America First people are outside the administration, the Israel First people are inside the administration, and they are the ones who are also attacking India. So that is a bit of a surprise. The other thing is that the war of words continues with people close to Prime Minister Modi, and his supporters are also launching. So look at this particular tweet from, not this one, sorry. this particular tweet from somebody called Anand Ranganathan, who is a right-wing nut in India, who's very, very, he's like this extreme right winger. So this is what he says, that America is successful because it's Indian communities. So apparently, without the Indian community, America will fail. Why didn't India take back this Indian community and become more successful than America? There are about 5.5 million Americans. Take me back and lock me up so that I don't get even bail for 5 years. That is what's going to happen to somebody like me in India. This particular one of my channels has already been blocked in India. There is no freedom of speech for minorities in that country. Here I can say things. Look at this video. I'm so critical of the Trump administration. I'm not afraid that my freedom of speech is going to be curtailed by the Trump administration, but I have evidence that my freedom of speech has been curtailed by the Modi administration. But nevertheless, Mr. Ranganathan thinks that uh, if America is America only because of the Indian community, really, the Indian community came to America in pursuit of the American dream. Indian community really started growing in America in the last 20, 25 years. America was the most powerful country on earth in 1945. Let me give you an idea of how powerful the US was in 1945. It was the only country which had monopoly on nuclear weapons. It had clear there was no one else who had nuclear weapons. And the United States share of the global GDP was 50%. Half of the world's entire economy was the US economy. This is 1950, and there were not any, there were no Indians in the United States. So this whole rubbish. So you can see that a lot of people in India are beginning to say foolish things. These are some of the reasons why I think partly that there is an anger rising across the world in India against Indian. There's a huge protest in Australia the last week. I did some coverage of it, uh, that they are targeting immigration, primarily Indian, because Indians are now the biggest migrants. Indians love to talk about how great a country India has become because of Prime Minister Modi, but they don't want to live in India. They just want to run away anywhere but India. Millions of them have migrated here to the US. 700,000 are illegal migrants from India. They're going away to the Gulf. Even the rich guys are migrating, taking their wealth away. They're going to Dubai, to UK, etc. You should just Google the migration of high net worth individuals, high net HNIs, high net worth individuals who are leaving India. After China, they're the second largest exodus of revenue. But as this war escalates between Donald Trump and India, the chances, on the other hand, on the other front, the Russia-Ukraine war continues to rage, and the chances that that is heading towards a ceasefire look quite bleak. So if there is no ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine in the next few months, then what we are hoping will happen is that if there is a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine and the peace process becomes in earnest, Donald Trump will lift sanctions of Russia and thereby secondary sanctions on India. So, of the 50% tariffs that are there on India, which is really going to hurt a lot of people, especially in the jewelry industry, in the diamond, people who sell diamonds and precious stones, people who work in the garment industry, people who work in the carpets industry, people who are exporting shrimps, and automobile parts. All of this people who are going to lose jobs because they're going to lose the market of the United States. We are hoping that that 50% tariffs would go down again, at least to 25, and then there is hope that eventually India will have a deal with the US, a trade deal, and that trade deal will enable the tariffs to go down even below, say, 15%, like the European Union and what the Japanese have. So, so that is the hope. But if things seems to be getting worse on the Ukraine-Russia front, and that is quite surprising to me. The French President Macron just announced that 26 European countries are now ready to send troops to Ukraine, and Putin is obviously very upset. He said even Russia now needs security guarantees. And he also made the argument that if there are foreign troops inside Ukraine, they will be legitimate targets. Uh, I wonder if some European country like Poland or even France or even UK will do something stupid like sending troops into Ukraine, and then the ball will be in Putin's court. Will he target them? And if that really happens, then the chances of a ceasefire between those two is going to disappear, and so the sanctions will remain. In fact, if some European troops are killed, then there'll be a lot of pressure on Donald Trump to take a one-sided approach. I mean, he'll have to abandon efforts to make peace with Russia and do a lot more to make Ukraine win against Russia, and all of that will now sort of cascade onto India. And those sanctions on India for buying oil will remain, and so on and so forth. So it looks as if that this relationship, which was so carefully developed in the last 25 years, is now in deep, deep jeopardy. So that is one risk. For those of you who think that this is not a big deal, India and US relations going awry, ask yourself, why didn't Modi work so hard for it in the last 6, 7 years? Never went to China, uh, and this, and so on and so forth. He was putting all his eggs in one basket to a great extent, uh, because the US is by far a very big market in merchandise terms. See, there are two elements to exports: goods, things that you make, you know, chips and salt and food and things that you can touch and feel. These are called goods. And the other are services. Like, for example, right now, I'm using a software called YouTube, and it's a service. It's not a good. I mean, you can buy subscriptions like Netflix. These are all services. And you could buy a program. You could hire me to give you advice. These are all services, consulting services, etc. These are not goods. So all the tariff-related battles that we have been watching Donald Trump wage for the last few months are all about goods and merchandise. They're not about services yet. And he's also not touched, with regards to India, he has not touched pharmacy. India exports about $10 billion of pharmaceutical products to the US, and he has not touched semiconductor and their derivatives, and that includes iPhone. So in the goods, those things are still off, haven't been hit by these additional tariffs. But the services, now that is something really, really profound. So that's what I want to share with you. So take a look at this particular article that I want you to consider, because this is the next battle zone. I can already see that some of the MAGA people are talking about this. There are two elements to the service issue: that there are literally thousands and thousands of jobs in India where people work for American companies, and then there are also contracts and programs and services that the US buys from India. And people are now insisting and demanding two things: that the jobs that go to India should not go to India, cut down the H-1B, that is, people who come here and take jobs, that should be reduced, or stopped, according to some MAGA people. And then the third issue that they're really, really talking about, and that is also worrying, is take a look at it, is this, okay? Is about imposing tariffs on services. So that's the I think the worst case scenario that is going to happen. So according to this article, if you look at it, it says that has had a really very good year last year and this particular year, and so the exports to India. I can barely see this. This article is so tiny. Let me see if I can find the original on this site and read it to you. Yeah, so it says robust demand drives IT exports to US. So the US, India's exports to the US in the service industry, in the IT service industry alone, is $224 billion. That's nearly double of the total trade between India and US when it comes to merchandise, which is just $130 billion. and this has gone up really by 12.48%. 12.48%. That is the huge jump from last year to this year. So in the last fiscal year, that is 23 to 24, India had exported $199.5 billion worth of services to the US, IT services. And then in the 24 to 25 fiscal year, uh, India exported $224 billion. So the US India trade, if you combine the goods and services, is over $350 billion. It is practically 33% of India's total trade. So let me say this again to you, that the total trade that India does, export and import, which is a little bit more than $1 trillion, one third of that is with the US. And the services is two-thirds of that. And that hasn't been touched yet. It's not on the table. Yes, the MAGA crowd is baying at it. And the more anti US statements you hear from Indians, the more anti India statements you're going to hear from MAGA. And to me, the one amusing aspect is that these are all conservative right wingers. So Hindutva national is screaming at America, and the American version of Christian national is screaming at India. These are supposed to be good partners. Remember, Modi went around saying, "Ab ke baar Trump sarkar," and when this Trump administration came into power, they were so thrilled. They were acting as if the Trump administration's slogan was Hindutva first or India first rather than America first. They were so damn thrilled that Vivek Ramaswamy was jumping around. And then Tulsi Gabbard became the director of national intelligence, and Kash Patel became director of FBI. I was watching Indian media. They were pretending as if Indians had taken over America. No, America was like the chaprasi of India, doing whatever India wanted. And look at all of these people have become irrelevant. Tulsi Gabbard has been pushed completely on the side. She is in theory, she's above the director of the CIA because she's the director of national intelligence, and all intelligence agencies are supposed to report to her. But during very critical negotiations, say with Russia, etc., it was Ratcliffe, the CIA director, who was sitting with Trump, and not Tulsi Gabbard. She's just been pushed aside, and then she's doing all this lousy stuff with intelligence targeting Trump's opponents in the Democratic Party, etc. I mean, this is ridiculous. Not doing anything that is of national interest, but it's about Trump's trying to suck up to Trump. Basically, that's what she's doing. Kash Patel has become a thug whose job is, at first, was to go and talk about the Epstein file. Now his job is to protect Trump from being exposed from the Epstein file. This is the same FBI which let an Israeli child sex guy who was arrested let him go. It was the FBI which allowed that guy's name was Alex something from Israel, who was arrested for trying to have sex with a 15-year-old girl in Las Vegas, and Kash Patel let the chap go. So this is the kind of dirty stuff Kash Patel is. That's it. No input on policy. He cannot open his mouth on India-US relations. His job is go do this dirty work, and he's ready to do that dirty work. That's all the Indian influence has been used. Look at the tech summit that was there in the White House, and you had all these CEOs, about 6 or 7 of Indian origin, were there. The Google CEO was there. The CEO of Macron, I think his name is Sanjay Mehrotra. He was there, and of course the CEO of Microsoft, etc. They were all there, but nothing. They didn't talk about India at all. They are all keeping quiet because they are worried that at some point Donald Trump, if he continues to remain angry with the U.S., may start talking about imposing tariffs or some kind of a tax on services, and that is going to be another problematic aspect. So, what can India really do? So, I have, over the last few months, I have completely lost respect to for the Modi administration, because they all seem to be literally from Dr. Jaishankar onwards. I mean, Dr. Jaishankar is doing such a bad job that even Modi is not decided not to take him to SCO and left him behind to stay at home, and he missed one of the most important developments, India's pivot to China. But this whole effort in the past few years was just promoting Modi, 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 Modi. That's all they are trying to do. And now they are in a panic mode in India. They are afraid that they're going to lose the elections in Bihar because with so much attention on vote chori, all the cheating that BJP has been doing in elections, they are afraid that the scrutiny will prevent them from cheating in the elections. And if there is a fair election, they could lose that in Bihar. And so there is a lot of foreign policy posturing that is going on from India is with an eye on Bihar's elections. Even though Bihar doesn't export anything to the US, and I just learned about how most of Amirullah Khan was here. He gave a talk at the university, and he was saying that most of the exports to the US basically comes from the South, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. These are the only states which really export most of the bulk of the stuff, the $330 billion worth of stuff that India exports to the US. Mostly the diamonds and jewelry come from Gujarat. A lot of the fishery stuff comes from Maharashtra, and all the IT stuff is coming from my hometown of Hyderabad and Bangalore, etc. And all the iPhones come from Madras. So all these Hindutva, Hindi speaking, Hindi belt, Modi, Yogi, all of these Rajasthan or useless states, Bimaru states as they are called when it comes to exports point of view, they're all about politics, dirty politics, and their literacy levels are low, educational levels are low. And so that's what he will have to do if he wants to win Bihar. So so for India, this is going to be a challenge as to how they will manage to ensure that they can try to, you know, turn off Donald Trump by becoming friendlier and friendlier with China. But this idea that China is going to treat India better than the US is a pipe dream. You know, there's a Hindi phrase, an Urdu phrase called "Ab aaya na oont pahad ke niche." And I think that is how Xi Jinping must have reacted when Modi suddenly came, pretending to be such a good friend of Xi Jinping and holding his hands and laughing and giggling away like a little kid who's, met a girl for the first time. So that all that giggling Modi was, for 7 years, he didn't go. He used to say, we will show our red eye to China. I have a 56-inch chest, and all that tough talk that he did with China has all disappeared. And everybody in Indian administration, whether it's Dr. Jaishankar or Narendra Modi, seems to be suffering from a short-term amnesia. They have forgotten that China stood with Pakistan in the war that India just fought. In Operation Sindoor, China was actively involved with Pakistan, giving weapons to Pakistan, giving real-time intelligence to Pakistan. And after that, subsequently, China has continuously supported Pakistan diplomatically, including in the SCO's final statement, the Tianjin Declaration. I did a whole show on that. The Indian media, if you're following the mainstream Indian media, they were lying to you about the Tianjin. Do not trust anybody who says good things about Modi on Indian TV. Take it my word. If you are a true nationalist, if you love India, if you care about India, any media person who says something positive about Modi, don't trust that person. Go and check. Go and see how the entire mainstream media from ANI to India Today reported on the Tianjin Declaration. There are 3 paragraphs with regards to terrorism. The first one is about Pahalgam. The second one is about the Jafar Express and another terrorist attack that happened in Pakistan. The third line, basically the third point, goes on to say that we condemn the supporters of terrorism. They're not condemning Pakistan. That's how the Indian media reported, and everybody were thrilled that Modi went there and got this. No, they are condemning the supporters of not only the Pahalgam attack but also the Jafar Express attack. So Pakistan was able to not only keep its name out of it, but also to insert the Jafar Express. You can see that India and Pakistan's diplomatic clout is on the same level in SCO. And how does that happen? Because of China. It is China which is boosting. I mean, Pakistan is no competition to India economically, militarily, diplomatically. But how's then Pakistan batting above its pay grade, basically? Because China is boosting it, even in this particular thing. And a day or two before the Shanghai Cooperation, if you remember, the Chinese were very, very tough. The Ministry of Chinese External Affairs, I did a show even on that. None of that was covered in the Indian media. The statements by the Ministry of External Affairs with China on the issue of Taiwan. This hedging that India has been doing and getting away with the US, trading with the US, but also playing ball with China, being with the US, with the Israelis, but also trying to play ball with Saudi Arabia and UAE. All of this two timing that India has been doing for the last 4 or 5 years with Joe Biden allowed, you think they will be able to do that with Xi Jinping? If India really gets into a positive relationship with China the way Russia has at the moment, then the Chinese will demand complete subservience. Modi did not stay for the celebration of China's victory. China became independent from Japan first before it became independent. China played a massive role in World War II, which is not recognized in the West at all. This 80-year celebration, Modi did not stay there. But see who all were there. Putin was there. So this assumption that Putin, Xi Jinping, and Modi are on the same level, first of all, that is wrong. Modi is a second tier. It is Putin and Xi Jinping who are now running the non-Western part of the world. In fact, Kim Jong-un was there when there were 23 other countries who were there with Xi Jinping standing up there. Do you think that if India gets into a really bad situation with the US, I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does and it wants to get closer to China, will it be able to stay out of the Belt and Road Initiative? Why will China tolerate India, which for the last 7 years was playing footsie with the US and being part of Quad and all this talk about balancing in China, supporting Taiwan and pushing China back, all this dance that India did for the last 7 years? Why will China trust India immediately is the question that no one is asking in the Indian. They're pretending that India is like a prize that has to be won. It's like a swayamvar, they call it swayamvar, where the bride is standing there and all these warriors are fighting among themselves. No, the US is not fighting for India. The US had India and now it's pushing it away. That's what everybody's saying, right? The US lost India. What does that mean? That US had already found India, or India was part of the US? So this is going to be going to get a bit more messier. I think the fastest way out of this is India to really negotiate a deal as quickly as possible and try to get the 25% reciprocal tariffs down to 15%. And if India continues to focus on domestic politics and try to do foreign policy, then they're going to pay a price in either of it. So you have to decide whether you want Modi to win or you want India to win. That is the key question. If you want India to win, then you have to have agricultural reforms and you have to make a deal with the US under its pressure. But if you want India to go down the drain and you want Modi to win, which is anyway going to happen, then try to save Bihar for BJP and continue to fight with the US. When he said 2 months, I think Howard Lutnick was also keeping an eye on the Bihar elections, and he has that in his mind. All right, so as I promised to you all that before I end my monologue and then take your questions and your comments, I see Anuradha has made a couple. I will respond to all of them as far as I can, as long as they are parliamentary, interesting, thoughtful, and topic related. And before that, I also want to wish all of you who have celebrated that that today was yesterday was Prophet Muhammad's 1500th birthday, peace be upon him. So Eid Milad Mubarak to all of you who celebrate. And for those of you who are interested, I did give a talk today in the Friday talk on the Prophet Muhammad's 1500 years, his legacy and his teachings. So you can just either send me a request and I can share the link to you, or just Google it and you'll find it. I just uploaded that on a different channel. So So now I want to show you a couple of interesting videos. Um, uh, there are just a few seconds about the Baltimore Aquarium. So if you're near the Baltimore Aquarium or you're near Baltimore or within driving distance, take your kids and go there. It's absolutely beautiful. So this I will continue in the next few days to show various videos from that I took. So first of all, look at this beautiful shark. And then there were ibis. I mean, I was in Trinidad and I saw thousands of ibis, but there were four here in. So that's the pink ibis. So I feel like a child every time I go to the zoo or to the aquarium, because you know I see the beauty of nature and what Allah has created, and to me that's really magnificent. You know, I'm instead of wow, this is amazing, like a child, and it was wonderful. And I was there with a very prominent Indian economist, Amirullah Khan, who was also, oh my God, Mukhtar, such a great thing. I'm glad I came. Anyway, so that's the end of my monologue, and I will now take your questions and comments if there are any. Nit Pandey, you were the first to come. Hello to you. And then chemistry dedication. Hello, how are you? Uh, and then Mark Welber, Bollywood superpower. India goes to lunch with the US in a restaurant. After lunch, India asks the USA to pay the bill. The USA politely pays for it. India takes the cutlery. Oh, come on. That is a bit too much. But yeah, it reminds us of that moment when one of the Indian cricket players was caught in in UK for stealing socks, etc. But anyway, so there is somebody called Sheetal from India. Oh my God, she's saying lots of rubbish stuff. You can take a look at it. She seems to be interested into some weird stuff. Hitesh, hello to you. Mayank, Trump is behaving like a rattle lover. I think he's behaving like a woman that has been scorned, and they say there is nobody more dangerous than a woman that has been scorned, Mayank. That's a good question. Will Quad be there? Look, I had been saying that one of the tests of India-US relations would be whether Donald Trump will come to India for the Quad summit. If Donald Trump does not come to the Quad summit, then it is dead. Quad without the US is what? India, Japan, Australia. The Australians are right now screaming for Indians to get out. There are protests against Indians in Australia. So India, Australia, Japan, first of all, it won't be a Quad. It is like, it will be nothing. Nobody will care. Even Chinese will laugh it off. You should see the cartoons that were published in the Chinese newspapers about the Quad when the news came that Donald Trump, when New York Times kind of leaked that Donald Trump is planning not to go to India for the Quad summit. But it's quite possible that during that same period, see, India has a tough decision to make. If Donald Trump says he's not coming, then what will India do? Will it hold the Quad summit? No. So it's gone. Then someone else is going to be president of the Quad, whatever it is next time. Maybe if it's Australia and then Donald Trump goes to Australia, which I don't think he will, because I think without the US, the Quad is pointless, it's useless, of no use, and I'll have no cloud, nobody will care for it. So the US already has Squad. The Squad is Quad minus India, and in India's place, they have Philippines. So if Donald Trump wants to push minilateralism in the Indo-Pacific region, he has many options. He has AUKUS, and he has Squad, and he can go with them. And since India is now so eager to be in the Chinese camp, while pissing off Xi Jinping by playing double games, by being with Japan and talking about Quad in Japan, and then being with Taiwan, and doing all this smart alecky stuff, I think that Xi Jinping will really have very little tolerance for this kind of rubbish foreign policy that comes out of India. Dr. Jaishankar can say as much as he like, multi-alignment and all these fancy words, but in reality, his foreign policy has failed desperately, in the last few months, and it has been desperately exposed. He was unable to handle the Operation Sindoor. He was unable to put the blame on Pakistan, make the connection. Nobody in the world has come out and condemned Pakistan. They are so thrilled that nobody condemned India for Operation Sindoor. So they are looking for desperate ways to define victories where there is no victory. So I think, yes, you're right. Maybe the Quad is dead unless the next president feels the need to revive it. But it all depends on what happens between US and China. Okay, we thought that if Putin comes to the US and US Russia relations improve, the war in Ukraine would end somehow. That has not happened. That entire meeting in Alaska was pointless. If a Putin Donald Trump summit in Alaska can be useless, this whole summit with Putin, Xi Jinping, and Modi, why do you think that will be successful? So it's just showmanship temporarily. So it is quite possible that nothing might change in the international relations unless Trump goes to China and there is a grand bargain. Then India is not needed, then Quad is not needed, and the US makes a deal, a big deal with China, not a small deal, but really a grand bargain that is about trade, about investments, and about geopolitics. So that is. There has been an interesting news item which came out that the Trump administration has been secretly continuing a dialogue with Taiwan about the defense of Taiwan, which is something that should upset China. And that tells you that the US is hedging and not really trying to bet on a positive outcome between Trump and Xi Jinping's dialogue. We'll see what happens when he goes, whether it's in November or December. By December, we will know, we'll have an answer to both as to where US China relations are, because this 90 days tariff rate will also be over by November, and we'll see what happens. Is the US imposing 84%, 145% tariffs on China, or is China getting 30% or even less? And that tariff rate will indicate what the state of US China relations are. And I can tell you, at least during the Trump administration, if US China relations improve, then Quad will become less and less relevant and less important to Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump personalizes his tiff with India, then it's going to be very difficult. That's not working, Indian Neo. India has been basically, India is a chamcha of Israel, going around voting with Israel everywhere. That didn't stop Donald Trump from going after India. What more can India do other than go and kill more children in Gaza on behalf of India, of Israel? What more can India do for Israel that it hasn't done already? India is the only country which is not standing up against. I mean, along with the U.S., of course, and Germany, not standing up against. So entire Europe has turned, the whole of Asia, the entire global South is against what Israel is doing in Gaza. And the leader of the global South, India, stands with Israel. It's like Israelis have bought the leader of the global South, and yet it's not helping them in their relations with the US. Oh, Lakshya Sharma, that's a good question. If you remember Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor before Merz, who came to India, and Macron, who came, there was like a troop of Europeans who came, and all the 26 representatives of the European Commission came with von der Leyen, that I just can't. Ursula von der Leyen's, I don't know how to say her last name, Ursula von der Leyen's troop, they all came. It was a unique trip. Nowhere in the world has all the European Union commissioners gone and won. You know, all that hype that happened last year. That was all about this FTA, and they haven't moved on it at all. And there are lots of issues there. One, India is basically asking for jobs, jobs, jobs everywhere. Please take Indians, please take Indians, please take Indians, give visas, give visas, give visas. That is one constant demand that India is doing. Basically, the Modi government is unable to generate jobs. And there are educated people. They have given permission to a lot of private schools. I heard the story of an engineering college in Hyderabad. I was so shocked. It's like they're just opening shops with nothing in it. No professors, no faculty, no labs, and students are coming in and they're getting degrees and they have learned nothing. So India is producing all these thousands of tech people, so-called tech people, and they are just desperate. Even with the British, the Nigel Farage's attack on the India-UK free trade agreement was because they reduced the insurance costs, and so more Indians can go to UK. Indians are the people who overstay the visa the most in UK. So there's a lot of tension there, and when eventually when people do start getting jobs because of the free trade agreement, you can see there will be an anti-India backlash from the right wingers. The right wingers will attack, the people like BJP and Bajrang Dal, but their version in UK, which is Nigel Farage and others, they will be the ones who will be going after Indians who are coming there. And the same is going to happen in Europe. I mean, there was this big talk about German foreign minister saying we want talented people from India. Everybody wants people who have skill sets, especially in this AI. Europe is nowhere in the race on artificial intelligence. It's either China or US who are competing. So how will Europe keep up? They want talented people from India to go to Europe. But then there is an anti-immigration sentiment in all of these countries. So it's going to be very difficult if India insists on saying, please take our people as part of the free trade agreement, then I think there will be more delays. But if India says, okay, let's forget about visas, let's just talk about trading goods and reducing tariffs, etc., then the agricultural part comes up. And we will see what happens. They're just talking and talking for the last 4 years. The free trade agreement with Europe has not come through. The free trade agreement with the US has not come through. The only one that came up with is Britain. And the British are desperate because in 2016-17, the Brexit happened in 2017. And they said that we are doing Brexit so we can make deals with China and India and bigger economies, which are now very important. So finally, UK got one free trade agreement with India, and the negotiations with China, even the European negotiation with China, 2 days before the EU delegation met with Donald Trump and finalized in Scotland or Ireland when he came to play golf, and then they announced their final deal. They had met with Xi Jinping. It was supposed to be a 3-day meeting, Europe-China summit, and that ended in 2 days. And the Chinese are very upset about the tariffs on EVs. If the Europeans remove tariffs on EVs, then China's BYD will just kill all European automobile industry. There will be no cars made in Europe, especially EVs. So the Europe has put heavy sanctions and heavy tariffs on it. And then they're asking China to reduce tariffs, and that's not happening. In fact, I think just today, uh, Xi Jinping or China announced additional tariffs on some European product. I forgot what that was. But it was just today that they have imposed more tariffs. So both Europe and China are also becoming protectionist. So we will see what happens. And now, if they are losing U.S. markets because of tariffs, they're going to be competing with each other for market. So India wants to India can't sell in U.S. will want to sell in Europe, and China what it can't sell in the U.S. wants to sell in Europe. So there's going to be much more aggressive competition. And in this scenario, uh, the free trade agreement negotiations become a bit more difficult and more complicated. Uh, let's see what Anuradha has to say. There's another nutcase called Kushal Mehra, who are all part of Samosa caucus. He was tweeted out today, India will die of hunger, but will not say sorry. You can kiss my Indian ass. Oh, well, why would we kiss your ass if you're going to die anyway? So die hungry like the Gazans. How stupid. Yeah, I heard all of the stupid comments. I also heard this Maulana Madini. He is a leader of the one of the Muslim organizations in India, saying, "Hum aadhi roti kha lenge, we will eat half a piece of bread, but we will not bow." Nobody is asking you to bow to to Trump. It is absolutely ridiculous, And I don't know why they see this as an ego issue. It's a trade issue. So we will see what is happening. But yeah, I have seen that Kushal Mehra posts If Russia is India's friend, then why don't Russian tourists come to? Well, lots of people. Russia. Why don't Indians migrate to Russia? Why do they come to America? Why don't Indian students go in the same numbers to Russia? Look at all the CEOs from India in American companies. Why aren't there any Indians who are CEOs of Russian companies? Why are there no Indians head of intelligence? Like you have a Hindu woman heading intelligence here in the US and a Gujarati running the FBI. Do you see equivalent like that in Russia? No. There's absolutely no presence of Indians there. Before the Ukraine war started, India-Russia trade was like $8 or $9 billion. All India did was buy Russian weapons. That's it. And many Indians also don't go for tourism to Russia. Everybody wants to come to the US. They want to come here. And let me give you another example. In a few months, Donald Trump is going to announce the golden visa, the golden green card. I guarantee you that most of these people will be Gujarati businessmen buying that golden card. All these Hindutva nationalists who are very close to Modi, they will be the first to spend $5 million to get an American green card, regardless of all the rhetoric. So all this talk about, we will not bow is rubbish. They will be buying this. Look at people, how desperate students are, because the rate of visa rejections has increased significantly. And people are so crazy about H1B, they are so worried. So talk is cheap, and for a long time, the current Indian government has been talking a lot, delivering very little. Mark Welber, yeah, the GST. You should watch the show I did with two economists, Amir Khan and Santosh Mehrotra. Santosh Mehrotra was also in the Indian Planning Commission. It is called Niti Aayog now, but he was part of it when India was growing at its fastest from 2004 to 2014. India was growing at 8 to 9, 10% at that time. And so we had a very, very good 1 hour long discussion on not just GST and its reforms, but also the impact. But to give you a quick answer, according to the finance minister, it's just going to reduce taxation by 48,000 crores. Apparently, it is 1/3 of what is raised in a month. So it's a very insignificant. It's just $5 billion worth of stuff. India's economy is $4 trillion. And the reforms that they have made in the GST is going to be impacting $5 or $5.5 billion reduction in GST. So it's not exactly a major incentive. The whole purpose of, if it is connected to the tariffs, is that people will start buying diamonds and jewelry and pharmaceuticals, etc., in India, which are not going to the US. So the reduction of GST means that the cost can be reduced for domestic consumption or even for exports. So the price of everything that India is manufacturing could go down with the reduction in GST. But there are apparently other problems. It seems that the software that they use in India, big talk that Modi keeps doing about digital India, is apparently 8 years old, and it's not really very good. Infosys was very unhappy with the very little time that India gave for them to develop the software for GST. Most business people are unhappy. I know people, at least two of my classmates, who make things, one in one field and another in another field, who manufacture things. And they would rather export than sell in India, because that way they can bypass the entire GST system itself. Not only because if you're exporting, there's no GST on it. So reducing GST on existing conditions, will that motivate people to buy more at home? That is the question. And the second question is, will it motivate them to sell more in some other country? I don't know. So we will see what is happening. We will know in another 3.5 months. So maybe in January, February, I'll be able to give you a review based on India's third quarter, post GST reforms and post 50% tariffs, as to what the state of Indian economy is. But right now, the first quarter looks very good. India's growth rate was 7.8%, even though we learned that India looks at it year on year and not quarter on quarter. I tried to explain that in the longer video on. Take a look at it. Uh, uh, And then India, as it was the services which won the day at 9.3%, 7% in manufacturing, and 3.7 in agriculture. So yeah, across the sectors, India did well. The government spending went up by 9 point something. So the services and government spending were the two reasons why India performed very well in the first quarter, that is April to June. Nitish, the 2224 is going to the US. Nitish K. The total Indian exports apparently was $284 billion, I think. Or maybe you're right. I will check on that and get back. Oh yes, Ram Prasad. That was under Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. India had 30% of the global GDP, 27% under Shah Jahan, and I think 30% under Aurangzeb. India had. There is actually. Oh, so basically it was India, China, or China, India as the biggest global economy for many years, centuries for the world. But it's only in the last 500 years that the West has begun to dominate. But we are back to it right now. China is about 16, 17% of the global GDP, and India is about 3.5. So India is about 3%, China is about 16% of the global GDP. So India, China together are still 1/5 of the global economy. That's 20%. So they are bigger than Europe. And the US is still around 26, 27% of the global GDP. So the US today is like India under Shah Jahan. Uh, that's a good one. Modi won't be attending the UNGA session, it seems Jaishankar. Yeah, I saw that. There was a lot of talk that if Modi comes to New York, then he will have a meeting with Donald Trump and Modi will work his magic. He'll grab him, he'll kiss him, hug him, or whatever. And then Donald Trump will drop 25% rate on tariffs. I know there was a lot of this talk that Modi is coming and he's going to meet. Now, there are two possibilities that Modi does not want to have a meeting with Donald Trump at all. There were all these press releases saying that Trump tried to call Modi and he did not take Trump's phone calls. So he's trying to avoid Donald Trump. The other is that maybe they tried to get a bilateral with Donald Trump, and when they found that Donald Trump is not willing to meet with Modi, then Modi decided not to come. Modi would be very awkward because he would be under pressure to say nice things about the Palestinian state, because most of the European countries are announcing a recognition. France, Britain, and another country, I forget which one, is going to announce a recognition of the Palestinian state. There's also a lot of talk of moving the UNGA meeting to Geneva because Donald Trump has canceled visas for the Palestinian delegation, which is just a mean, stupid, shitty thing to do that only Donald Trump can do. And of course, there's another shittier version of Donald Trump, which is Marco Rubio. So, Hitesh, I mean, a lot of bullshit from the Modi and all of the government smart aleck answers. So they have ticked off Donald Trump, and so he's imposed tariffs on India. Uh, and I don't know why he's justifying it by saying Russia. He should just say that I don't like India anymore. I don't like Modi. So here's 25% extra. That's all it really amounts to. But with China, the Scott Besson gave a very good example. He said, look, before the war, China was buying about 11% of its oil from Russia. And now it buys about 15, 16%. So the growth of China is just from 11 to 16%. So it's just buying 5% more oil from Russia. Whereas India was zero before the war, and now India's 40% of India's oil imports come from Russia, 0 to 40. India is the only country, not Turkey, not EU, not China, who are buying oil, crude, and exporting and making money, especially the Ambanis. So a lot of these Guju businessmen are making money thanks to Modi, who's allowing it. So all the oil that India is buying at a discount from Russia, you are not getting discount. In fact, for those of you in India right now, I would ask you to Google the price of petrol per liter in Bhutan and in India. And remember that oil to Bhutan comes from India. So petrol in Bhutan is cheaper than in India. And even though the Indian government keeps saying we are buying from Russia because we are a poor country, we want cheap energy for our people, the people are not getting the prices of petrol were the same before the war started, around 100 rupees per liter. It's the same now. So Indian population has not benefited. Some business people and some government oil refineries have made a lot of money to the tune of anywhere between 16 to 26 billion dollars. That's not big for a country whose economy is $4 trillion. For $26 billion, they have done this. Ashish, I don't know, man. What do you guys think? I'm manipulated, and you guys have all these conspiracy theories, Ashish. That he's taking money from Pakistan. Apparently, I'm taking money from Pakistan. I'm taking money from Trump. I'm taking money from China. If I was taking money from all these people, why would I be talking to you guys? Why would I be wasting your time? I would be just on having a great vacation somewhere. Plus, if these governments are giving me money because of my YouTube channel, look at the views. I don't even get 25,000 views since India blocked my channel. Why would anyone sponsor me? India has blocked my main channel, so I have a new channel. I get about 15,000 views there. Would you bribe somebody who gets only 15,000 views? Use your head, guys. Some of you guys are so stupid when you want to defend Modi. You guys say such irrational things, and then you turn out to be CEOs and engineers and doctors. Oh, he's a idiot. It's ridiculous. Just agree or disagree. That is fine. Look at what I say. If you agree with me, fine. If you don't, listen to the argument. Provide me with the counter evidence. When you don't have any evidence to counter me, that's when you make personal attacks. Most of the people will attack me on my religion, and for some reason, these true Sanatanis are obsessed with my penis. They will talk about my penis all the time. So I don't understand this rubbish. Okay. I mean, if that is your level, that is Vishwa Guru level, then I understand that you're unable to do anything analytical and think beyond that. That's fine. But the point is that India's foreign policy has been an utter failure since Operation Sindoor and before that. And the reason for that is because they're promoting Modi and Hindutva, not India. That is why I'm critical, and that is why you don't like it, because you want to say Modi hai to mumkin hai. Well, Modi hai to yahi hoga. Yahi mumkin hai. This is possible because of Modi. Because you thought, oh my God, they have such fantastic relationship. He goes and grabs all of these people. No, they don't like it. Let me tell you that. He is violating the personal space of a lot of leaders. What do you think it is? Something magnificent? Only Indians get thrilled by this. Nobody gets impressed by that at all. So what happened? He picked Putin's hand and walked towards Xi Jinping. That is a foreign policy achievement. You guys are thrilled about that? This is rubbish. I sometimes get really frustrated. India is supposed to be having so many, there's so many grand masters in India who play chess, and then people come and say such silly things. No, Trump is not caring for the poor. VS Trump has the big beautiful bill has done some horrible things. It has cut Medicare in poor places. They're trying to pass a subsequent bill to basically make up for all the damage that the big beautiful bill is going to do to poor, and most of them will be in red states. So yes, I think a lot of people are going to die because of big beautiful bill, because of the Medicare cuts that it has done. So yes, he's cutting taxes. He's cutting taxes by $4 trillion. That means the debt is going to go up. So Donald Trump is going to do a lot of damage to poor Americans and to the American economy. And he keeps talking about the tariffs. The tariffs are nowhere in the same range. The best month we had was August with $31 billion in tariff collection. Even if that is the standard, that would be just $300 billion, whereas his deficit is clearly over $1 trillion per year in these 4 years. That's the amount of tax cuts he has given to the rich people. So this administration, which claims to be America first, is basically billionaires first, Israel first. That's it. In foreign policy, it's Israel first. On domestic policy, it is billionaires first. It's not America first. And the MAGA people have realized it, and that's why the MAGA is up in arms. And we'll see what happens in November. The only thing that is going in favor of Donald Trump is this horrible Democratic leadership. They are the most useless people, I think, on earth today. People like Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They won't stand up even for their own party people now because they're so worried about Israel in New York. So look at Mamdani won the primaries of the Democratic Party. Shouldn't the party now support their candidate? Instead of that, two of the Democrats are running against Mamdani, taking money from the Israeli lobby. And then Donald Trump is not trying to coordinate. So it's going to be Mamdani versus this. Let me show you something that you might, I don't know. Look at this.
Let's cut out the middleman. Why should I debate Donald Trump's puppet when I could debate Donald Trump himself? If Donald Trump is serious about this, he should come to New York City. We can have as many debates as he wants about why he is cutting SNAP benefits for hungry New Yorkers just to fund tax cuts for his billionaire donors.
So there's something called, if you have no income and if you have no money, then the US government, let's say you're completely nothing, no income, nothing, then the government gives you food money. It's called SNAP. It's not very high. I think it's like, I don't know whether it varies from city to city, but it's about $500-600 per person. No, $150 to $200 per person. That's it. I mean, you can't eat and live on 200, but that's the level of assistance that SNAP, I think, gives. And Donald Trump is cutting that much. He's giving billions of dollars to Israel and to Ukraine and cutting food support. You can't buy anything else with that. It comes, you get a card and you show the card at the grocery store and they give you food. You cannot buy even a candy or something. You can't vary on it. So he's cutting food to hungry Americans and he's calling himself America first. That's what Mamdani is saying, that come to New York and debate with me. And Democrats are siding with that Mario Cuomo, the sex pervert. These days, the Democrats are just either corrupt, sold out to the Israelis, or they are completely corrupt, sold out to perverts, from Epstein onwards, Bill Clinton, and all of these people. I'm totally disgusted with the Democratic Party. It's because of them that Donald Trump is won 2024, and now he's going to win again. He could win in 2026, but let's see what happens. Okay. Someone is talking about saffron terrorism, Hindu terrorists like BJP and others who go about lynching people, murdering them, raping, etc. So I don't want to discuss Hindu and saffron terrorism. I will leave that to people who study that. All right. So, Himanshu Prasad, thank you very much for joining. India's foreign policy may have faltered, but bowing to Trump isn't right. Shouldn't we boost hometown business? Yeah, please go ahead and do that. Why are you bowing to Trump? You're now bowing to Xi Jinping. Is that okay? Sucking up to Putin is okay? And forgetting that China was with Pakistan in May, that is all fine. That is still on the border, still aggressive on the border. There has been no resolution, no acknowledgement of India's borders by China at all. Isn't that bowing to Xi Jinping? You decide and tell me that everything that Modi has done with regards to China is not bowing to China. And he did bow to Trump, desperate to get invitation for his inauguration. Jaishankar was hanging around in DC for 2 weeks, desperately trying to get invitation for Modi to the inauguration. Xi Jinping was invited, he didn't come. And desperately, as soon as the Darbar opened, Modi came running and took a ticket and was number 4 in line to meet with Trump. He came running. Isn't that bowing? Who came running to India to meet Modi after he got elected, except Sheikh Hasina? Nobody. What multipolar world, equal powers? Nobody. Look how they came running to meet with Donald Trump, desperate for attendance and attention of Donald Trump. That's all bowing and sucking up to Donald Trump. But now you will not do the for the country. It's just Bihar elections because of the way Rahul Gandhi has been attacking Himanshu Modi, calling him Narendra Surrender, and those words. Modi is scared that it will stick to him, Narendra Surrender. So we will see, but eventually we will see what happens. And Howard Lutnick thinks that in another 2.5 months, he will come and bow here. Oh, Adam, yeah, that is true. Uh, uh, you know, UP is twice the size of Japan. I think I don't know which country, which Indian state is the size of Japan, uh, but California is even smaller than Japan. California, let me tell you how California population. So the state of California, oh my God, the California's GDP last year was $4.1 trillion. 100. So it is last year California's GDP was equal to what India's GDP will be at the end of this year. And the population is just 40 million. Just 40 million. California's GDP is bigger than India's. So yeah, I mean, I don't know why they keep talking so much. Too much of bragging, in every field, even with IT field. I went and looked at the Chinese IT industry and I was stunned. There are two parts to IT: hardware, software. India is nowhere in hardware. Everything is China. Even the US is nowhere. Whether it's semiconductors or building laptops and all this, everything, over $1 trillion worth of hardware China produces. And in the software industry, in IT services, China's economy is close to $600 billion, 100 billion more than the US, which is 500, and India is about $300 billion in IT. So China is double than India in software and like 10, 20 times bigger than India in hardware. But Indians keep bragging, we are Vishwaguru, we are this, we are that. You never see the Chinese do this, you know. All right. I know, Jitendra, that the prices vary, but roughly it's around 100 rupees, 88, 89, 95, 105. It doesn't vary more significant. The same is true here in the US too. In fact, in the US, prices of gas are different from gas station to gas station. It depends on like one place. I was surprised. It was a new part of town. I had not driven there, and so it's about $3.10 near my house, and then which is about 83 rupees per liter. But when I went to that neighborhood, it was $2.85. That would be like below 75 rupees per liter. And I was saying, why is it so cheap? I was nearly out of gas. And when I looked at it, it was because it was 10% ethanol and 90% oil. And so I said, oh no. But anyway, just took a few gallons because I wanted to get back home. So yes, it varies. I understand that. Everybody understands that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there was no variation in prices after buying cheap Russian oil or before buying Russian oil. You can go and check. Oh, well, Umaid Naidu, I didn't see that tweet, so maybe I will talk about it tomorrow. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching Conversations. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtadar Khan. Take care. Bye.